You kind of do it the same way. It's just that you have to wear a few more hats with regard to some of the organizational stuff and the head coach duties. But so I meet with the quarterbacks every day, just like you would as a position coach. When it comes to meeting the offense, then I lead the meeting. It's really pretty similar. And the other thing that I like, it's kind of a, my sanctuary in the course of a day is practice. I mean, I look forward to practice. And I'll tell you, as a head coach, you look forward to practice if you do it like I do, even more than you did as an assistant. All of a sudden, practice, the phone stops ringing, we could do this, we could do that, we could do the other thing. Yeah, we could do all that stuff, and that's great, except we got practice. And, well, what are you going to be doing at this point? I'm going to be practicing, So, no, it's great that way. So run the quarterback meetings and then install the offense. And then, of course, putting the game plan in. That's a long Sunday night, a real long Monday night, and then you go through the debates. So the debates, honestly, aren't as much on what to run. It's limiting what you run. I mean, because, we think all of our ideas are very clever. And so then paring it down to where it's a manageable number. Yeah, that's all pretty much happened. There's been a number of articles on it. The biggest thing was as soon as it happened, we got counselors with the team, but then the other thing is just be present for everybody, and then on the team, and then having the team itself, I think, has been very helpful. And then we all have very fond memories of Tyler. We're proud that we had the opportunity to know him, but then also, he would want us to, we believe anyway, or I do, that he'd want us to move on and have productive lives and elevate what we can do.
So those conversations with mental health and mental awareness for your team continue?
Yeah, well, and they did before, and they do. Of course, they continue. Yeah.
How do you handle recruiting for Pullman? They try to get some of the top talent to Washington State. How do you handle that? What's your advantages that Pullman has?
Well, the biggest advantage, first of all, I mean, people are what recruit first and foremost, and so you have to figure out what they're looking for and what they need and what they want, and see, and illustrate how what we have fits it. And the one thing that is, I think, pretty key for us, I mean, the Pac-12 is a fascinating conference. There's a lot of variety from one team to the next, but it's also a very urban conference, and we're a college town, and we offer something that they don't. And if you're, you guys might love the traffic in L.A. A lot of great things about L.A. You might, you sit in the car, listen to the radio, look at the person beside you. You get flipped off. I always thought it was kind of funny when somebody flipped me off. Couldn't help but laugh. And then, wait in line for stuff. Well, you don't get to do that in Pullman, Washington. So there's sacrifices you make to come up there to Pullman, because you don't have to plan ahead, and which, it sucks if you want to develop your planning skills. Good food's right there. And, well, I'd like to wait in line. Okay, well, you can stand there, but I'll be here at the counter doing nothing. So when you're ready to order, come order. So we're a college town. The other thing is 365 days a year, it's the Cougs. They'll remember a game you played the rest of your life. This isn't a deal where you might have the game of your life and walk 3 blocks and they don't even know you had a game. I mean, no, they know you had a game, and they know it's a big deal, and they'll holler the thing out. I remember we had a big win in the conference on the road. Came in at 4 in the morning, and the whole balcony of this, the dorm is just packed with people screaming, "Go Cougs!" And it's 4 a.m. meeting the bus. So, yeah, it's a unique place that's all centered around the college. exactly what it was when he was in the Pac-12. You know, just watch a bunch of film when we play them, and then put together the best game plan you can and go play them. But we don't play them for a year anyway. So I got, yeah, I've got 2 years to obsess over the return at Chip Kelly. Some people could enjoy it for 1. I could enjoy it for 2. Well, we've got, and Bill's fantastic. I talk to Bill all the time, but, you know, I mean, excited to work with Pat, and Pat Chun, you know, does a good job, and seems, you know, we've got a good relationship. And so then, you know, as far as assistants on my staff, I mean, over the years, I've had, you know, a bunch of guys get a lot of opportunities, and they're quality coaches, and, you know, and it all starts with the qualities of what they can do. And so, you know, a pretty big coaching tree as a result as far as their, you know, hard work and what they've had the opportunity to go do. And so we got, you know, another group of guys in now, which it's been a fairly seamless transition, and that's one thing that is beneficial offensively with me coordinating the offense is, you know, as we get new coaches, all of a sudden we're not reinventing the wheel. It's, you know, it's the same deal. And so, you know, just I'm there to plug everybody in and tell them what to do. And then the other thing, Tracy Clays had worked with Jeff Phelps before, so I mean, I think that helped as well. And we had a really good spring, and that's the biggest way that I gauged it, and everybody stepped in, and so we had a very productive spring very quickly. I think it's fair to say that it's not as bad as I thought it would be, but I think the other way's still better, but I think it's by a smaller degree than I expected. The other thing is I think we'll have a better sense of it about 2 years from now, because there's sort of a ripple effect as far as, you know, how coaches will strategize around their recruiting players, as, you know, the rhythm of when next time, declaring, you know, that type of thing. And then, of course, we've got a couple other rules that'll shake that up. So we'll see, you know. But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. You want to know where the boundaries are, so as effectively as you can.
You mentioned it.
The red shirt rule. There's so many rules lately. The 4 games. I think that's a good rule. I think that's a good rule. You know, it approaches 5 years of eligibility, which I've always thought would make things very simple. Would be a smart way to do things. Would eliminate a portion of the rule book. Maybe there's those that like to having as many rules as they can. But you know, if you 5 years of eligibility, you know, the transfer stuff, you know, just off you go. But it's a step towards that, and I think it's really good for the student athlete too. I think it always has been. Not really. Because I'm going to continue to not bet on sports. You know, the injury thing. I'm not going to. Well, okay. So here's your choices. So you got some conferences talking about, all right, having an injury report. Well, let's start with the fact I'm not a doctor, so I'm not even qualified to say whether the guy's injured or not. Okay, but then you got one federal law that says you're not allowed to reveal someone's medical information. Then you got another law that says, all right, we have gambling, so we want to know all about their injuries. And I realize that this business of not talking about people's medical condition gets run roughshod through every year. in the NCAA. But you're sitting there with two laws that contradict each other, so I'm going to be wrong one way or the other. And so, you know, I'm not going to reveal injuries, even if I'm qualified to, until I'm forced. And they might force me. I doubt it, but they might. And if they do, then, well, I'll try to figure out a way around it. So. Well, the players it's still illegal for players to, and it has been. And then I think some of what's been, you know, going on is now just now it's legal instead of, you know, go down to some place on the corner and, you know, or call somebody, you know. But and it's gone on with the NFL for a long time, and so it really hasn't damaged them very much. So hopefully that's still the case, you know.
Coach Clay's a few minutes ago. What's on his plate, and what is?
You know, he's got that's the thing. He's kind of a predictable from the standpoint. He's got a huge pedigree as far as being a defensive coordinator. He's been at it for a long time, starting from small college to bigger schools, and and always been successful, always been good. I think it's also good that him and our defensive line coach have worked together before, so I think that creates more continuity. And then schematically, what he ran was what you know, we were seeking when I hired Alex Grinch. So it's pretty close. You know, it's not like all of a sudden there's going to be huge changes scheme-wise. Had really good work in the spring. Have several quality quarterbacks. The challenge for us is going to be to select the right guy. But I think we probably have 3 or 4 choices, all of which would do a really good job. He's older, has some experience in kind of leadership quality, I think. He's real accurate, and then getting acclimated with our players and our scheme somewhat, but his scheme, he's been around our scheme some, so there's that. But it'll be a heck of a battle, you know, because I thought, you know, Gordon and Tinsley both had really good springs, and so. And I think both of those guys will be difficult to beat out. And then, you know, you got a lot of talent in Cameron Cooper, used to being a college football player, and then he had a really good offseason. That'll be exciting to see too.
How important was it to get Peyton Fleur back for a 6th year?
Well, I think that was pretty big because Peyton's, you know, has always been kind of a leader for us and just a very instinctual player. And I think that, yeah, I think that was very big, and it's good to have Robert Lewis back too.
What do you think of the new kickoff rule? Are we seeing maybe the beginning of the end of kickoffs, do you think?
They've debated it a long time. I mean, this is the furthest they've gone. I'm kind of curious how it goes. You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. You know, they did it quite suddenly, you know, and then I think you'll see more kicks on the ground. You know, it'll be either if you're real confident your guy can put it through the end zone. I mean, you'll still let him launch it, I suppose, and then you know, put it on the ground and hope you can pin him in there. But there'll be a lot of stuff on the 25, I imagine, which honestly there has been. You know, you do the kickoff and they do this and that, and you're hoping the guy breaks it, and then he gets pounced on, and then you're on approximately the 25. So there is the fair catch quality. We talked about this as far as muffing it on the 2, you know, which I actually kind of like, you know. I mean, you know, you muff it on the 2. Maybe you should have it on the 2, but you develop better catching skills, you know. So.
Mike, after dealing with what you guys went through with Tyler this year, how important do you feel like it is for athletic departments in general to really focus on mental health of their athletes?
No, I think that's always been a part of it, you know, and you have a staff as far as team doctors and all that, and everybody's got counselors on, which that's one thing at Washington State. We had counselors around, the entire team, a huge number of counselors within an hour, so I think that was a big deal. But I think it's a constant emphasis and needs to remain that way.
You see it as, have you seen it kind of become more of an issue than in previous years? Or like years ago, 10, 20 years ago?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, because, I'm trying to think even like at the smaller schools I've been at, like lower budget places. There always was a counselor that you could send guys to that were having problems. You try to, the training room tends to see it first, but there was always, every place I've been, a counselor or a psychiatrist or somebody in town that you could, send somebody to and, to try to get them help. And then, of course, from there, everybody's trying to evaluate and address the problems the best they can.
Has it made you more aware of things as you watch your team throughout this summer?
Well, you constantly look for something to improve and make things better. You constantly look at that, and then of course a lot of that's out of my hands. A lot of that's it's pretty much into the doctors and the experts and the medical team and stuff like that. And with regard to my advice on how to do their business, they're really not that interested. So yeah. All right, that turned out good, didn't it?
So, what's the most interesting recruiting story that you have going on the recruiting trail? Like a town, any experience? Not with the recruit, but just what's the most bizarre or interesting or unique recruiting trip you've ever had?
No, geez. There's a lot of them. They range from going to a place and you drop into the couch and it's a real low couch and your knuckles are on the floor and you get to the edge of the carpet and you're feeling around and it's dirt under the couch. I mean, you're on a dirt floor, and then neighbors and relatives come out of the back room with bags of alcohol to celebrate the signing of the player and the arrival of the coach. Then you go to some palatial gated community where they have a 7-on-7 field out there where the quarterback and you play 7-on-7, a big pool with a fountain in it. A couple tennis courts, a batting cage, a concert piano, and the thing is you come into the house and half the kids are really good at playing the piano. I mean, so you get the extremes. I guess the extremes of it are pretty wild. And then just the general personalities of the families. I'd have to think about it. I mean, that's more. You get in the middle of about 6 coaches telling stories, then it reminds you of it, but.
We have 2 minutes remaining with Washington State. 2 minutes.
It's always an adventure, though. It's always kind of wild and kind of an adventure. The other thing is, occasionally 16-year-old girls are deciding where their boyfriend super athlete's going to go to school. Or you also get the one where everybody wants the kid to go somewhere else and he just tells them no and comes to your place or goes to another place. So yeah.
What is the background story on Jimmy Buffett writing a song about you?
I hasn't that I know
Cold Pirate?
of. Yeah, he wrote that before I've never met Jimmy Buffett, so I know some of the people around him. Yeah.
Is there like a favorite part of the country to go to for recruiting? Not for the player, but just like for the uniqueness of when you spend your time with Florida and stuff like that.
Well, in our case, outside of the state of Washington, Southern California in particular is huge, and some of that has to do with just the demographic of where we're at, and that's in the Pac-12 footprint. There's nonstop flights. There's a huge number of athletes, a whole bunch of good players. When Washington State's been good, they've always had a connection to Southern California, and as far as visiting, that's different than recruiting. Recruiting's based on production and players who you can get, and in the nicest parts of Southern California aren't necessarily the best players, and I've always thought that as far as regions of the country that people brag about, as far as top talent, the Inland Empire is awfully hard to beat. You hear about the Golden Triangle in Texas, and you got the South Florida stuff, and the Panhandle. Well, I mean the Inland Empire's in there with any of them, indisputably.
Talk to me a little bit about Jalen Thompson. What improvements have you seen, and what are your expectations for him this season?
Well, he came to our place pretty ready to play. He was one of those guys that didn't really have any physical filter or anxiety. I mean, he just exploded out there on the field. And he's stronger and more athletic than he looks. He's whatever size he is, but he's stronger than that. When he hits something, it just flies. His vertical jumps off the charts. And then, just plays with a passion and an intensity that rubs off on other players because they see it and it energizes, the unit out there. No, he's an impressive guy to have. I mean, he's gotten just kind of incrementally better as far as because he got older, but he had a pretty good running start out there as far as being a good player for our team from the beginning,
And you think being an early graduate kind of helped that process, getting him in early with your guys' program? And
yeah, the most important thing with that is you got to be inclined that way. You got to be ready to do it. If you're sitting there wishing you were still in high school, going to prom, finishing out track season or whatever, well, then you need to stay in high school. But no, the day he walked in the door, he was ready to go and he was excited. And he's one of those unique guys that didn't have this big adjustment where, have the whole.
All right, that'll conclude
I'm
Washington
not sure
State.
What I should do here. I mean,
Again, the sports
I
information
can't
staff
say
here
it's
with
right
Washington
100%
State,
of the time, but,
Bill Stevens and Bobby Allworth will be able to assist with additional one-on-one opportunities during the lunch period from 12 to 1.
Like this, not like that. I mean, he'd do that, but everything was full speed. You never had to work on how fast to go, or some kind of uncertainty as far as his technique or assignment, No, full speed. You never had to work on that with him. And that puts you ahead, too, if you're like that.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.